Meteorologist Tim Pandajis. Thanks for tuning into this stream. We're tracking a line right now, a line of non-severe thunderstorms rolling through southeastern Texas. It's about to approach the Houston metro area within the hour, and with it we are expecting some gusty winds, although staying below severe criteria, likely 30, 40, maybe 45 mile per hour wind gusts. On top of that, blinding heavy downpours. 1 to 2 to 3 inches per hour. Now, the front is moving at about 20 miles an hour, so the flooding threat isn't overly pronounced, but we could certainly have some minor street flooding, especially in the metro area, as it builds on in within the next 60 minutes or so. A few things I want to point out for you here on the actual line itself. Now, notice right here, we're starting to see a little bit of some bowing shaping on up there, and that is coinciding or correlating with the area of some of the strongest winds. And if I switch things up here and show you our velocity product, which basically just shows us the wind direction, radar indicated, we can kind of see that bowing already being indicated in these areas here. I'll zoom in a little bit more on some of these spots just south of Cypress. You see the greens are winds that are moving towards the radar site, and the red is moving away. And when we get those clashing together or really consolidating, that's where we get a little bit of a spin up. So not really seeing that at the moment, which is good news. But some of these are radar marked wind speeds. 20, 25, 30 miles per hour. Addicks area, Jersey Village, 41 miles per hour here, right over 249 north of Roslyn. Some of those wind gusts there could exceed 40 miles per hour as well. So that looks to be the area of highest concern right now in terms of the strongest winds. But overall, we're seeing a line here with some extremely heavy rainfall for most of the area as it pushes on through. And as I play this out over the last, let's go 2 hours, we can see it's progressing at a rather good clip, meaning we're not seeing training thunderstorms or storms that move over the same area for a long duration of time, leading to a more pronounced flooding threat. Not really the case here, but again, it's now moving along the Beltway, heading along 290 and heading into the Houston metro area. Down towards Sugar Land, rain breaking out for you there, out through Katy as well. Something, if I also want to show you here, is that the line itself, you'll notice, is lacking something. And that's really lacking thunderstorms, or really lightning, I should say. We've got one tick here of a lightning strike down to the south. Very low-topped cloud tops here. Low height, meaning they're not stretching as high into the atmosphere, not as electrically charged, meaning they're also not very strong too, staying below severe criteria there. Let's take a look at some of the rainfall totals that we've seen so far from this line as it's been moving on through. We'll go the past 6 hours in some of these areas, and you're starting to see a little bit of some of the yellow shading popping on up there in the Katy area. And those are some of the highest totals that are exceeding maybe 2, 2.5, maybe 3 inches. Again, this is radar indicated, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. It could be off by a little bit, but certainly the areas north of I-10, Brookshire area, Monaville, southwest of Cypress. Some of these areas could certainly have seen some totals. Let's actually put the markers on here. 1.8 to 2.2 inches, so good soaking rain. And a lot of these areas need it. The latest drought monitor report came out yesterday, and it shows these areas are hurting for some rain, so this is good news for them there. Other areas off to the east of I-45 haven't seen much at all in terms of rainfall just yet. We're not really seeing any risk of hail with these. Again, they're low-topped thunderstorms, so not seeing a whole lot of that. Just really the wind scenario is going to be something we're going to want to pay attention to as we go through the next couple of hours. Again, we showed you earlier the Cypress area along 290, some of the gusty winds there, Jersey Village area, West Little York Road, up here towards 249, over 40 mile per hour wind gusts, seen here 40 mile per hour wind gusts near Veterans Memorial, and just to the west of I-45 there. So overall, this is going to be progressing towards the east at a rather good clip. Let's put a storm track on it here for you to give you a feel for where it will be heading, where you live within the next couple of hours. Moving to the east-northeast at around 20 miles per hour. So if we put a storm track on it there, that gives us Bush Airport arriving there in just about 5 minutes from now. Other areas like Cleveland, around 1:57, Pasadena, around 2 o'clock this afternoon. The Baytown area around 2:20, Mount Bellevue around 2:30. So you got about an hour lead time there as this whole line is progressing towards the east. So there's another lightning strike there. Now, what does this look like on future track going forward? So the models pick it up quite well, progressing along the I-45 corridor, by the time we make it to 3 o'clock. So another 90 minutes from now, we're still dealing with heavy rain right along the I-45 corridor. Gulf Freeway headed towards Galveston, likely going to see some ponding on the roadways there. But the good news is that as we approach that evening commute, notice the line becomes a little more ragged looking. Starting to see some gaps developing in the line. And that's because it's overall moving into a generally more stable environment. And why that occurred is because earlier today, if you were watching radar with Kim Castro earlier this morning, there was a massive cluster of thunderstorms, what we call mesolow, developing just offshore. And what that did was it competed with the incoming line of showers and storms, robbing a lot of the energy from it that it would have used to grow in strength, which is why we're not seeing much in the way of severe weather with this as it rolls on through. Now, the actual cold front here associated with this is back here along this narrow line of showers developing by around sunset or so. That itself will likely bring a secondary round of some showers, maybe a rumble of thunder, a shift in our wind direction as we approach sunset, and then that should be the end of it. Everything wrapping on up by around 8, 9 o'clock tonight. We are, however, left with a pronounced cloud deck that'll likely be stubborn to lift out during the mid to late morning hours on Saturday. We may see a glimpse of sunshine or two later in the afternoon, but this looks to hold steady. That'll do two things. That'll keep our air temperature suppressed, only topping out in the upper 60s with that wind coming in now out of the west to northwest. And it'll also likely squeeze out a few areas of drizzle and maybe keep some mist in there too, especially in coastal areas by tomorrow. Some good news here is an update on the Storm Prediction Center's outlook on the possibility of seeing strong to severe storms. That has now dropped to a level 1. So level 1 is the lowest threat. Level 5 is the greatest threat. So we're at a level 1 in the areas in green. Earlier today, we were at a slight risk or a level 2. So that's an improvement there. That basically is because of the energy being robbed from that cluster of storms that developed offshore earlier this morning. Regardless, storms that do develop, that do get on the stronger side, damaging winds look to be the biggest threat on top of the street flooding potential here. Very moist atmospheric profile, and these storms will act to wring it out like a sponge. So some spots could easily pick up 2.5 to 3 inches. In fact, here's a look at modeling going forward. Right on through 11 o'clock tonight, by the time we think everything will be wrapped up. Looking at an inch, inch and a half in most locations, but locally some spots could see double that depending on where the heaviest rain sets up. So what does that mean if you're heading on out to Minute Maid for Game 1 of the World Series, the Astros taking on the Phillies? Well, the roof will be closed, so the weather will not actually impact the game itself, but pre-game activities, fan fest heading into the game, you'll likely have to combat some showers. Right now we've got a 50-50 shot at first pitch of seeing some showers. That's around 7 o'clock. Before that, those chances are a little bit higher. Now, by the end of the game, leaving Minute Maid celebrating an Astros win, 30% chance of showers there. Temperatures by that time will have fallen into the low 60s. So shower chances throughout the game, so you'll need the umbrella in and out to the game. Now, the good news here is I don't think this is going to spoil our weekend. As I mentioned, that cloud cover tomorrow will be stubborn to lift in a lot of areas, but once it does, we'll see conditions greatly improve. So overall, we'll call it a partly sunny to partly cloudy day on your Saturday. Temperatures in the upper 60s and will be breezy too with that shift in wind direction, drawing in the drier, cooler air. That drier air will eventually eat away the cloud deck. Now, by Sunday, definitely the better half of the weekend, 75 degrees, mostly sunny skies, and mild. So that's the good news there. Let's jump back and finish things up here with a look at radar to see how that line is progressing across our area. We're starting to see a little bit more lightning develop here in the cell near Spring in northern portions of Harris County. Even this is not a lot. We've got 3 lightning strikes showing up here over the last 10 minutes or so. So again, this is just to the west of Bush. You see IAH marked there on the map. This line is approaching there. So we'll see how that affects approaching and departing flights in the next hour or so. Driving into Jersey Village along 290, this is where you're seeing the heaviest blinding rainfall. 290 here, North Eldridge Parkway as well, Grant Road, Deco area, North Houston. This is 1 to 2 inch an hour rainfall rates in these areas. And already so far, let's look at the last 1 hour rainfall totals. You can see some of these spots have already seen 1 to 2 inches, marking the rainfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour, certainly likely causing some minor street flooding just until the catch basins can catch up with the rain that has fallen. We'll see that likely be brief in nature. And elsewhere off to the south here, let's clear that off and go off to the south. Still a patch of very heavy rain over the Katy area over the last hour and a half or so. Let's go back over to radar. The Addicks area, let's add in lightning. And we're seeing a little bit more lightning out towards the Spring area as well. Driving to the south through Mission Bend, Sugarland area, Pecan Grove, Richmond area, approaching the Sugarland area too, along the 69-59 corridor, rain breaking on out there. Notice the intensity, though, is not falling with as great a force as what we're seeing to the north, where you've got the reds and maroons over the 99 area. Rain is a little bit lighter, still quite heavy likely though, over the Sugarland area. So all of this, putting it in motion over the last 2 hours, shows it generally progressing pretty quickly to the east, northeast. It'll be through the Houston area by 3 o'clock and then pushing to the east of there quickly thereafter. There'll still be some lingering showers behind it as you saw on Futurecast, but most everything wrapping up by sunset this evening. That's the very latest. If we see any warnings pop up for you, we'll certainly be back on here on digital and also on KHOU 11 on all of our platforms on the air as well. You can catch me and David Paul, Chief Meteorologist David Paul, later on this evening at 4, 5, and 6 for team weather as the remainder of this line blows on through southeast Texas.